Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. Trust everyone had a really good weekend and waking up to a fantastic Monday. I know school is out, and well, most schools that should be. I don't think any school should be in at this point in time. And of course, we're heading into what Catholics across the world celebrate as Holy Week. Most Catholics across the world celebrate as Holy Week. So I trust everyone is in a very reverent, jubilant, Easterish mood, ready for renewal and rejoicing and the welcoming of great things into their space. I am Brenda Batiste. It's a pleasure to have you with us once more. Those of you joining us across the various platforms, we welcome you. And it's a pleasure to welcome Senator Christopher Deali and Mr. Byron Campbell, our resident expert talk panelists. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Brenda.
How are we this morning?
Good morning to our listeners and viewers, and it's a pleasure to be here again this Monday morning. I'm not sure about Brenda and Reverend in this week based on the political things that happened this weekend and all the...
You see, I can just put the energy out, huh?
And I know we're going to get to that. I just want to say excellent, lovely weekend, nice weekend for agriculture, Byron, and so on, and you know.
Well, there's no, well, morning all. I know why I'm facing you off this morning, Chris. I don't know, too. Why?
They put a thorn. Excuse me, the rose between the two.
Thorns. So that's a slip what was the
Yeah, we have a lot of slippery storms happening on different platforms.
It's in politics.
I apologize
They
for
put a
that.
thorn between the two roses. All right. Let's go there.
Slipping at the tongue.
Let's go there.
Slippage.
You know I'm not shy, right? Let's go there.
I'm not just looking at the weekend, I'm looking at the season, Chris, in terms of what's rolling out. As Brenda, you said, Easter. But for certainly, I think the dry season is in. I think although you're having intermittent showers, but you can feel the heat. You can see the impact on the trees and so on. That's good, I think, in some respect, because fruit trees in particular require this stress from the sun. So when the rains come, they flush, they flower, they bloom, essentially. So vegetable farmers, of course, wouldn't say that, give us the rain all the time. So depends where you are. But it's a good season generally, I think, because we have another, 2 months or so, 8 weeks of dry season as we know it traditionally.
Right.
So kudos. So we're not complaining there, but I think where we complaining is more what's happening, Chris. Well, before I go there, the weekend, or the last week, and the weekend also. I was out a bit, and I saw, reminiscent of 2018, 2017, of time gone past in Grenada.
You mean the first week of the lifting of the regulations?
Yeah, the crowds. I was passing through Queen's Park, and there were thousands of people, drove through Grenada, the traffic. Wow. Coming from Intercall and all that. So, some normalcy, Brenda. We returning to some level of normalcy. Is that good? Is that are we taking adequate responsibility?
I will challenge you and say returning. We have returned.
We have returned
to normalcy. I know we're still returning.
The prevailing theme these days, the return of everything.
So the question is, are we taking adequate personal responsibility for health? So I think the messaging must continue.
Barbarous is a anomaly in all that's happening, and you see the rate of infections. How much 100 people a day getting infected in Barbados? 600 and something.
But now they're starting to reconsider because it's taking a serious hit on their tourism. They figure that their mask mandate is negatively impacting their tourism. So they're starting to take a second look at it.
The long and short of it, COVID is still around.
That's right.
And we have to pay attention, regardless of what has been lifted and countries are in a good place, generally from where they started to where they are now. So that is positive, but we still have to pay attention and still protect ourselves accordingly, depending on where you are.
And the score with Omicron BA2, and I understand that in one of the U.S. states, they'll be reintroducing face masks and some other protocols because of the increasing rate of infection. So this is all to say, China and many other countries, so we just need to get on with life. And
because
we have to live with this, but
we're now in a phase of the pandemic where you can't mandate and legislate anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's now about, it's a public health crisis.
Yeah.
So it's about personal responsibility and everybody taking care.
Yeah.
I know last week a lot of folks were out and were still a little bit antsy because they still had to wear masks to enter some establishments.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think everybody listened well when the Minister of Health announced that the restrictions would be lifted, but added of that private enterprise, and so they reserve the right to maintain some of the regulations. So at the end of the day, you can't fight with the private, with a place that tells you you need to wear a mask on entry, you need to sanitize on entry. That is a decision for you to make. Whether you need to do business there, you either comply or you move away. But you can't fight with them, you know, and they're not in the wrong and you're not in the right, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So we just have to be mindful of those, because sometimes we hear the top and we don't go down. So, but that was announced very early on. So nobody is oh, you know, some of the business people, they're doing what they want. No, they're not. They're reserving the right, you know, as to how. And I think it's fine that some of them do maintain it. Depends on what you're doing, especially the sanitization.
Yeah. My establishment, we reserve the right. Because it's not only about trying to be difficult. You have a staff that you have to protect as well.
Absolutely.
After staff leave work, you don't know what they're doing. But the point is, on entry into the establishment and compound, you need to keep risk. Management of risk is what it is for us. So some of us will still have the mandate to wear masks. And as Brenda said, if you're not happy about doing it, then you have an option. I mean, we do, some of us in the businesses maintain that, right? The tourism sector is still keeping it.
Yes, they have to. They have
high
to.
degree, so you have to, because COVID is still here. COVID is still very contagious. It still can get you very ill, depending on your status with vaccination or not. So you have to be careful regardless. And I mean, we understand the need for livelihoods and opening up, and government needs to get back on track and so on. But at the end of the day, we do have a right to ensure that something. It's like wearing a helmet if you come on my plant.
Right.
You have to wear a helmet.
Sometimes like to fall on your head or something.
Yes.
Because you have stacks and
so you have to wear a helmet if you want to go into our seat. If we have visitors to the plant, there are certain safety protocols that must be done.
You must adhere to.
It's very similar.
So
I am more concerned about, particularly when I'm indoors, in terms of look and considering air quality sometimes, because that's a key issue. Outdoors, I am, kind of relaxed, but once I'm indoors, I'm a bit sensitive to my environment, you know.
I don't think I don't know, you sometimes for a minute, sometimes you kind of go into this space of freedom, and then all of a sudden you look around you and it hits you. So you close right back in. I mean, it happens with me.
Well, my son had a function over the weekend and was there with my wife, and she was the only person wearing face masks.
Right.
I think it's because she's just returned from the US. She's the only person wearing face mask.
Right. Safe.
Yes, safe, you know, and so on. So it's
and responsible as well.
Absolutely.
What
you made of the intercall and what's the
let me just say congratulations to GBSS and
PBC. Did we win? What?
Second. Come into that.
Second. I got the information. I'm sorry.
We all alumni, we have to say something about PBC. I mean, you know.
PBC did good.
Oh, yeah.
But guess what?
Kudos to the guys.
GBSS prevailed.
Yes, and that is temporary. You know, that goes. But congrats. I think even though it was what you call a reduced type of intercall, because all the schools around the islands could have participated for one reason.
It was a special intercall.
But when you saw the enthusiasm of the young people to want to partake and compete, you know, I heard somebody saying, you know, there are some people running bare feet and so on. And I didn't look at it as a derogatory thing. I just thought it was something about, I just want to be on here and compete here. My schoolmates backing me and giving me the emphasis to run and partake.
I know of a shoe, but I'll be there. Attitude.
I must
I missed the ground and I want to touch the ground. After 3 years, I want to touch the ground. That's what it was.
I think the organizers did a splendid job.
They did.
Came off really good. The police, everybody did well. And of course, Republic Bank taking up the sponsorship.
Listen, Republic Bank is really excellent at sports. I mean, how they really, I mean, over the years they've done a lot for football and cricket, and they're really good. I I mean, Scotiabank for the last 20-something years, Scotiabank did it. Now, it's Republic Bank. I think for their maiden year, they did a really good job. Congratulations to them.
The big part about it was live on television. Guys.
It was
on
live
YouTube,
everywhere.
Watching it on my phone.
It was such an unproductive.
That's a new dimension.
I mean, staff by us showed up with their school ties, people shouting, what are you doing? Everybody having a time.
Even though we had rain, it just didn't dampen the spirit.
No.
If anything, it blessed the whole event.
I think
No. It was really wonderful. For me, I cried 3 times during that day. You know me, some eyes got like a soft. So then the thorn, let's get a little soft.
That's where
the first image was when I looked, there was a cruise ship in port. And the bleacher where all the students were in their uniform and the background, that just hit me. And I cried.
I saw that.
Then when Anderson came through the rain, Anderson Peters, that great world-class Grenadian athlete. When Anderson came through the rain with the torch, it was pouring. And Anderson just kept charging forward. And the flame, the flame is like rain. Hello? The flame just stood there. I cried. And when the students touched the tarmac, I was like, wow. Are we doing this again?
Okay. You're getting emotional, Brenda.
It just felt, that was it for me. That was it for me. After that, it was over for me. It was over. The fact that it actually, those images were live, it was happening, this was real, and then later in the afternoon, it was action. And then the Prime Minister showed up as a sub-junior. Somebody say, Brenda, I see my phone ringing, I'm like, hello. He said, Brenda, you're online? I say, yeah. I say, I'm writing a letter, but you're online. I say, you didn't see what breaking the internet? I say, gosh, what will you do again? So the person is like, no, go and see. They say, as you go on Facebook, you go see. As she said, as I logged into Facebook, there was this image of this individual.
Properly attached.
But let me tell you something, it was brilliant, marketing brilliance. When the students started to tweet and say, look, the PM show up looking younger than the boys. When the girls in the intercall start to say that, you win. I mean, in terms of, you appearing there. So, and then to see him, he was enjoying it.
No,
it
was a good taste.
And he was quite excited about PBC, I noticed.
Of course. Come on, Brenda.
So, both of us.
Great things come from the hill. Not below the hill.
What's that? Great things come from the hill and not below the hill. GBSS on a hill. High school on a hill.
No, we don't call that a mount.
A mount?
You don't call it a hill.
We're at the high elevation. That's the point you want. Our altitude is of a different dimension.
Let me just lift my altitude right about now before we get into a whole fight, Tantine and wherever else.
Brenda, I want to have a question for Chris. Actually, can I ask him the question?
Sure.
Chris, I'm asking the question before I explain what
before
I
you
want to
answer
ask
the question you asked.
What are our opportunities, and basically in the private sector and government in this matter? So here we have a situation. We already, before the Ukrainian war, you had issues of weather and climate change affecting food systems. And now with the war in that part of the world, in Eastern Europe, what you've had is a leap in food prices affecting. And when you look at that area producing almost 25% of our vegetable oils and a high amount of cereal, like almost 20%, 70 to 20%. Not so much dairy, because dairy is not really factored there. That's more Western Europe. Food commodity was already at an extraordinary price in a 10-year high. And now you have what the UN FAO says is that they expect what's happening there to have a 20% increase overall globally in food prices. So the issues here is, and this is likely to have major implications on nutrition around the globe, We already see issues, crises in Sri Lanka, Pakistan. You have a change in government, and that's related. And you have in Peru, So major kind of issues here, but particularly going back to the food and what's happening. Back to the question to you, Chris. The opportunities for us here. Because we're going to see those prices, we're going to see the effect. I mean, it's gradually happening. It started happening, particularly in some commodities, but this is likely to get worse.
Well, let me answer it this way. I think two things need to be highlighted. First is there's a shortage that's going to come on top of the price increases.
Right.
So you'll see various shortages keep coming in cycles of different food items because the supermarkets are having difficulty sourcing and getting product. So that is one. The other thing is, I think it brings into sharp focus the whole issue of food security and what that really means in a real way. We talk about food security, but in a real sense now, it's going to affect us because of the shortages that we're going to see. And it's going to certainly have a damper on economic movement and what we do economically and how we grow. Opportunities, I think there is a big one for us in the Caribbean, particularly Southern Caribbean and the rest, and that is to look south. Go south. You know, Central and South America are huge food baskets. They supply, as a matter of fact, they are exporting less to Ukraine and Russia because of this crisis. And they now will have surpluses that I think we need to capitalize on because their export markets to these parts of Europe are now limited because you can't send anything to those countries. So there is an opportunity for us to go to Central and South America. I always say Guyana is another one. It's not only about oil. Guyana is a big food basket as well. Vegetables and other things that we
have
fruits and vegetables. And so here's that opportunity. The fear for us in the Caribbean is the language one because of the Spanish, and some of us fear the language barrier. But I think we are at a stage in life now and technology-wise where we can overcome that easy.
Absolutely.
The other challenge is shipping. Out of those areas tend to be a little difficult because you have to transship either to Trinidad or Jamaica, and it can be a little bit expensive, but shipping is expensive regardless. So you may have to say, listen, let us try and see how we could deal with that, but let us get the products into the countries to keep the food security issue and to keep our populations fed. In Grenada's context in particular, if SU comes back with a wave of students in the August, September...
It's more when, not if.
And if that happens, then our supermarkets have to be prepping in order to get enough supplies here to feed 5,000 mouths, however it will be more. And you know the economic spin-off. So there is that opportunity I see for us to get this shortage issue handled. I don't know if the pricing thing might be more difficult because a lot of these things are imported inflation, but I'm certain that we could discuss with our partners in South and Central America to give us reasonable prices.
For local production.
You first posited that last week, and actually I got 2 calls about it. There's actually somebody said, what Deali said there, that makes so much sense. And, the person was like, that never entered their orbit before. And so they think that we need to start looking. And then the other person said to me, Brenda, it's like Caribbean people, we know what we're supposed to do, but we're not doing it. Because they are saying that years ago, they remember attending a CARICOM meeting with a delegation from Grenada. And they said that was over 20 years ago. And there was talk about this thing with how we were going to produce our food and of course, through the region. And they said Guyana was supposed to be doing rice and whatever, wherever doing fish and poultry and all of that. And they said over the course of time, that just disappeared. They said it was a big thing. They said there was even follow-up meetings as to how this thing was supposed to roll out. So here we are now. Do you guys not think that this is so critical at this point in time that something like that be rolled out?
I keep saying it's no facing us in a real way, and probably some of the talk. And the local opportunity for us, Byron, here is marketing board, of course. How could we get marketing board more structured in its support for farmers to start having production of food items more planned and more structured? So not everybody doing potatoes and so on and so on. And here is a golden opportunity for us now to put a dent in the food security so much about eat what we grow and grow what we eat. Here is about structure in the production and seeing how we could get at and use marketing board as the vehicle to help farmers deal with that, with Ministry of Agriculture, of course, and even on the imports. How can marketing board help stabilize some of the imports that's happening? Is imports and exports. So I think there is opportunity here for us. We have to sit and seriously look at where we need to want to go. I mean, look at chicken wings. It's a huge consumption item here. It's scarce again, and we bring in most of our chicken, if not quite a bit, from Brazil. And other places. So we already deal with that part of the world.
Chicken wings?
Big way. So I mean, here is the opportunity. You know, Brazil is a huge country with plenty of opportunities for stuff as well. You know, so we need to broaden our scope, I think, and see how we could get delegations. Or Trinidad now has an arrangement with Costa Rica, where they do stuff and diplomatic, and they have trade missions. We need to start thinking in that direction.
So interesting, Chris, so you're talking about something I must tell you too is that a couple of years ago, you know, the GCNA, we saw this market in South America, particularly Argentina and the Uruguay and Paraguay, and now we're now shifting a reasonable size of our production to South America, which so this is a market, and so that kind of trading arrangement, clearly you could see it working both ways. But I agree with you on the issue of marketing board. I think one of the things I saw structured with marketing board, I never could fully understand why it comes under the Ministry of Trade. I understand maybe for the commodity, but the major business of marketing board should be the agricultural aspect. And therefore, for me personally, I would like to see a more relation to the Ministry of Agriculture, personally.
But it used to be under agriculture
and it
I think we need to
trade under finance.
I agree.
I know there are a lot of discussions.
I think we need to make our way back to what the marketing board was really set up to be.
But the issue, Chris, that because traditionally our economy and agricultural economy has been more directed to export, and so we find that a lot of our infrastructure were designed for exports. The local food production for local consumption, the networking and the structure is not clearly defined. So you find our distribution internally is haphazard, and I would like to see some work there. How it's from post-harvesting to.
Okay. Let me just show something on your plate. Sure. Bananas. One item. Just one item. Bananas.
Right.
When the influx, when post 2020, 2019, we couldn't supply enough ripe bananas to satisfy our local demand.
That's correct.
Here's an opportunity. I know we have issues with pest control, MOCO, and other things with bananas. But here's an opportunity. I like to call them like a silk fig, you know.
Rock fig and silk fig,
I think there's a huge market for that. That doesn't seem to be susceptible
and
to
it's my
disease.
favorite,
And I think we need to just choose one item. And if we could supply that just for the local consumption. Including SGU and all of that, that will be a plus right there.
That'd be a win.
We don't have to
Small
take 10
steps.
items. We take in the first one and get farmers interested. Let's propagate silk fig and just plant silk fig.
And even to supply the food program in the schools.
I mean,
because
let's start with one and let's see where it takes us. And that is not a crop that will take months. It grows quickly, and you know, you can get cash flow
within a year.
So I mean, let's go.
Could actually do a pilot with it and see how it works out.
Opportunities there.
Yes, great opportunities. Great, Senator Diali. Came in loaded this morning.
So could we talk a little about the pension issue?
Could we talk about this before we delve into that very weighty issue? No pun intended. Events. I think I would like to put on the table, this beautiful round table, because it extends outwards. That we start having a conversation with event owners, event planners, in the national discourse, especially for this season, for there to be age limit to people entering events. Wherever alcohol is being sold and consumed, I think we could safely say minors should be kept out. On our books, I think you have to be of a particular age to consume alcohol.
18 years.
18, correct. So we can start at that age. And I think it needs to be, you're a legislator, so I think it's something that needs to be brought to the parliament. We need to protect our young people. We have a lot of young parents, and so a lot of them are sometimes otherwise, engaged. Not to knock them or anything, parenting skills and supervision and all of that. And of course, we know we no longer exist in the age of the nuclear family where you had a great grandmother, the grandmother, if the mother gone, you had a grandmother there, or the auntie or the neighbor and all of that kind of thing. So these days, you probably all you have is a single father or a single mother, and you might have 3 or 4 children and neighbors who lock their doors and nobody's seeing what nobody doing, and then you're afraid to tell anybody, child, anything because you might get cussed out and all of that. So it comes to a point where the state has to step in and try to do some protection of our young people. And I would like to recommend that the RGPF, together with the Promoters Association and all of that, during the course of this season, that they really sit down and come up with, there should be on all the advertising, this event is 18 and over. On the tickets, this event is 18. All promotional material, everything, and that should be enforced on entry. I think that's one of the ways we can protect what is becoming a mushrooming case of underage drinking, unsupervised young people getting into spaces they otherwise should wait later on in life to get into, that kind of thing.
I support you fully, Brenda, on this idea. I think it's something that we need to talk about a little more. I'm glad that you introduced the subject. And it comes with its advantages and disadvantages. Of course, the advantages is that we protect our young people from early exposure to hard alcohol and the consequences that can come from them not being able to handle it, as we have seen happening already. But of course, the obvious question is, and people would push back and say, okay, promoters and RGPF will try and do that for events, but I agree we need to start somewhere. But, everybody has to get involved. They shop on the street.
Yes.
The ordinary way they sell alcohol.
Yeah.
It should not be sold to people under 18. You could lose your license, your liquor license for that.
Yeah.
But do we have the policing? The policing comes back to the individual, the shop owner, the adults in the environment.
Not the physical member of the RGPF.
And say, listen,
everybody.
As a shop owner, I am not selling alcohol to young people, even though you come to get for your parents. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you to
and it's against the law.
And it's against the law.
Yeah.
So we need that personal responsibility part of it, and all of us need to think about what are the consequences to our kids, because here you introduce them to alcohol at very tender age, and what it can do to them physiologically, apart from emotionally and otherwise, as Brenda mentioned, and end up in spaces they're not supposed to be in. And it's a real issue, and an issue that we need to deal with. And when we see the violence aspect that is happening now with young people, both at schools and other places, you have to wonder whether alcohol has an influence on it.
Right.
And we have been accused internationally and otherwise of a country of our size being one of the highest consumptions of alcohol per capita.
Access is too easy, Senator Deali. Access is too easy.
I totally agree with you that we need to put it into some perspective.
But Brenda, I've heard reports, I've not seen, but I've heard reports that of citing of many young persons under the age of 18 over the weekend in various activities, fetes, night fetes, midnight fetes, So I think that's the context, and we have a response.
And we know some of them run away from home.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you, the promoters, the government, social services, the police, because all these all these activities are provided with permits. And so then I think it must be linked.
The Spice Mass Corporation could help with this too, because it's carnival
season. So Brenda, it's a critical point. It's protecting our nation's children, and all of us adults have a responsibility. And I agree with you, Chris, that when we talk about policing, doesn't mean the
RGPF.
The police in the uniform, all of us.
Particularly the persons who dispense, who sell alcohol products, the promoter there's someone admitting persons to the
and those
event.
of us who witness too, because I think a lot of times if you go to a young person in a loving way, they respond
Brenda,
They respond
I
affirmatively.
was returning home
Yeah.
with my wife on Sunday morning at 2 o'clock, just about 10 past 2, and on Bridge, I saw children. That's what I saw. This is not what someone told me. I saw children on the streets, unaccompanied.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Unaccompanied
In
minors.
fact, it was minors, yeah? It was a conversation with my spouse at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to, this is not right.
And we're going to get pushback on this. I know, Brenda, we're going to get some pushback on
There's
what
a danger in
But you know,
not allowing people
we're not here being
under
pious.
18.
We're not here being pious, Jane and Paul and Peter. We are here. Look, you know, people. We just have to stretch our minds.
Civic responsibility.
That's it.
So
and we know that. The breakdown starts in the family unit.
Yeah.
And we know that we now live in a time where we can safely say the teenage pregnancy generation have come of age.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're not like Cuba. We don't have any national parenting program.
Yeah.
We probably have it on a small scale.
Yeah.
You know, across the Caribbean, we have these issues, and we cannot be hypocritical. We
And
have
with
to.
all the
I know.
festivities,
I
I think
Yeah.
last program I said there were 160 something fests already being organized
Yeah.
between now and Carnival.
Are you checking all these facts?
Yeah, not me. I was given the statistic.
I only check my
You know,
6 fets I go into. You
know,
check
and,
166.
if you have 160 plus events being planned in various over the country, and you hear a lot of them advertising now, prepping people to get ready for the festive summer
good
season.
thing,
Nothing wrong with
And,
that.
yeah, and the other thing
I
is,
agree with you, we have to
the
have
other
some
thing
control.
is, while we try to keep them away from certain spaces,
Yeah.
we have to create and curate spaces for them.
Yeah.
So, like Looney Spark and Electrify had a youth event, youth whatever they called it last week. People went there, so we have to create
That's
things for
correct.
them as well.
That's
I know
correct.
people like Talpi would have their kids event coming up. I think Waggy T have something on Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So while we keep them away from where all the alcohol and everything is,
So-called adult fits.
right? We have to curate experiences for them, because where does that energy go? You know, so we have to remember that.
Chris, are we going to talk about politics this morning?
Yeah, but
Listen,
want
I
us
know
to
you're
go-
trying to throw word for me. I know you're trying to throw.
Are we gonna,
Typical Grenadian, all you're very good at throwing
are we going
words.
to go there, Chris?
But just
Yes, we
before
go
I
in
go there, I
there.
saw
We
two
go
good
in
things
there.
happen this weekend. The fish processing facility in Guelph.
Yeah.
I think they're just opening that.
Excellent,
And the reason I am
excellent.
harping on that sense is because I have always said over the years in Parliament and other places, you know, we have a habit of building fish places. I like to call them fish places, where the people could go and buy fish, clean fish, store fish.
Right.
But we never take it to the processing end,
No.
where we could do tuna in cans and
Yeah.
so on and
Yeah.
so forth. So
Yeah.
add value.
Yeah.
We never seem to go there. So I'm hoping what I saw there in the papers regarding fish processing and in Guelph, on the western side, in a fishing village, I think it offers excellent
Fishing
opportunity.
Mecca of Grenada.
So if that comes off as they're saying it's going to come off, I think it's a positive thing.
That's
and we
great.
have to support that.
That's
It
great.
gives fishermen so much more they can do with their catches, apart from just export everything. You know, there's something here that we could do. So that's a positive thing I wanted to comment about. And of course, I saw Senator Gill, Ambassador Gill,
His Excellency.
His Excellency Ambassador Gill talking about the restrictions for Carnival all being lifted. Into your point, that we need to pay more attention now, know that there is this freedom, so to speak, of how you partake and what you do, and you know we need to exercise some level of control again with it. So I mean, I just wanted to mention those two things. And I think that
full throttle.
there was a young lady that won something, a gold medal in Jamaica, that is Grenadian heritage.
Yeah.
In the discus. I think that was featured. So congrats to her.
Yeah, at Champs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Champs. I watched Champs on the
So she
weekend.
did
That
so
was
well.
quite exciting.
So you could deviate into the politics
Yeah.
or into pension.
Okay,
Which one you want
it's
to go
now.
for?
Well, it's related,
It's
you see.
related.
Right,
So
okay. So let's go.
We'll
Yes,
delve into it
it's
because
related.
it's now unavoidable.
It's related.
Yeah, it's now unavoidable. I
So
could no
it's
longer come
related.
in and smirk at it
Yeah.
and try to, not have a
Right.
conversation.
It's in full swing.
It's in full
Right.
swing.
Right.
Last night when I was looking on, I saw the Prime Minister say the thing start.
Yeah.
So if he say it, because he have the bell, right?
Yeah.
So if he said
Under
it,
toenail.
So
Here we are.
So I like to start. Because honestly, yesterday I tried to monitor, not all of it, but parts of both rallies or the both candidate launching ceremonies, occasions. Yeah. Interesting in that the numbers I saw in terms of viewers was also interesting. Clearly, the NDC had maybe as much as twice the numbers on social media, Facebook, but NNP had a live coverage on Channel 10. So it meant that you could not really make a judgment regarding the amount of viewers, yeah, because no one knew or could have made a guess about who's looking. So, for example, I was able to monitor the NNP on television.
You had donkey glory if you try to go there.
And not on social media, you know. Yeah. So it's difficult to make a judgment based on those numbers. But anyway, I think both events were well attended. You had I heard some statistics. I think there was discussions on the pensions from both sides. So, for example, the leader, Mr. Dickon Mitchell, his remarks on the pension was that there would be no appeal to the pension. Yeah, that was his basically forte on it, that it was just, it was fair. Whereas the Prime Minister talked about that there will be a solution in the interest of workers. That I heard was the fact that they'll be setting up a special committee, that he'll be meeting this week early with the unions, that there will be, in other words, what he says is there will be a solution in the interest of workers, and it will be now, it will be immediate. And so I thought that, and he was very positive about it, and I thought that was very, very, very good. Regarding the, one thing I checked out, the NDC leader said he was making a point about poverty, which is correct in terms of the numbers. I think from 2019 it was like 35% based on World Bank. And he was making a point about education and tertiary education, where he says only 1% of the Grenadian population and he was quoting a 2019 World Bank publication. But my fact check on this, tell me the number is 6.0799%, and not 1% of our population actually go into tertiary education. So the numbers he gave was inaccurate, and I think that's the real number based on my personal fact check of it. Unless there's some other document he was referring to, I'm not sure, but that's what I saw. But overall, I mean, on the time of the election, I mean, the Prime Minister was saying, look, he's looking at the numbers, and if a statistician who has a PhD in statistics tells you that he's looking at numbers and numbers look favorable, then you have to take that seriously, you know. But
which numbers? 15-0?
No, the numbers in terms of where what the polls are saying, those kind of numbers, because so I take this very, very, very seriously. But back to the pension, I think that he gave me, I felt a sense of that he was serious about resolving the pension issue now. And there is a solution going forward to this. I didn't get a sense of appeal and in fact he dealt very much the issue of appeal, because early in the and he talked about this, Brenda, early in this conversation, that it was a makeup, you know, about this appeal.
He said he was asleep.
So the government has never said they were going to appeal. The appeal is coming from other persons, or the possibility of an appeal is being raised by other persons. So what the Prime Minister said is that, look,
jokes aside though, the appeal thing is starting to sound as if it probably was either miscommunication or mischief. So we have M&M going on. Miscommunication and mischief.
I mean, his bottom words, and I quoted there, we will fix the pension issues. And this was a public statement.
But I mean, let's take the pension issue. I think, all jokes aside, this government, you could say what you want, whether you like them politically or not, but it's the only government that has tackled this thing.
And he claimed that last night, and he has a right to.
You could talk, NDC was in government, the previous and so on, and none of them, I remember this is going back a number of years. According to the AG, almost 40 years.
40 years.
And there have been a number of governments in power during that time. Yes, NNP, you could argue, has been in longer than everybody. And fair. For being fair, they're the only government that have tackled it.
Gone full Monty.
And have, after the case with Homelin and whatever, they have started to pay people and so on. And I thought Mr. Richard Duncan did an excerpt which was quite interesting. He said, when you look at the first cycle from 1985 to know that 26 and 2/3 years. I think he brought it to 2012. When you say if you use 27 as average, that first cohort of people that needs to be looked at. There is a lot of people who in there may not qualify for the 26 and 2/3, who have been paid some monies already or being paid.
Yes.
So you need to do a lot of number crunching to understand exactly what I think Prime Minister alluded to that as well.
He did.
When he met with social partners, that there's a lot that needs to be understood. And he did commit to no appeal as far as he's concerned. This is an issue for workers that need to be resolved. Now, the devil in the room, you might say, oh, he's playing politics. And some people would say, well, he promised things in the past and he never lived up to it, and now the thing are wrong, he's going to say all these nice
But everybody
things.
playing politics.
And so on. But I think the fact that he's putting committees in place, and we know it's a complex matter. The AG spoke to the complexities of the matter. And, you know, Ministry of Finance have to have a team, in my view, dedicated to getting the numbers right, getting the people right, who are there, who were paid, who wasn't paid. You know, it's a lot of work. And it will take time for us to understand what that true liability is for the country and the way we want to go. I mean, I haven't heard the other side say how they plan to deal with it and fix it and finance it or whatever. It is a debt to the country. And we have to find a way to how are we going to meet this obligation to our people who have been affected. And that is not an easy question.
It's a millstone around anybody's neck.
And the taxpayers
it's something that has to be justified.
We, the taxpayers, will meet
we have to finance it.
So we need
whether to raise increased taxes,
whatever
whether
it is,
what,
the taxpayers will.
We have to.
And that's an important point, Chris.
And that is why, gentlemen, I believe, because when somebody said to you, we're all in this together on this issue, it is absolutely correct. Because there's you who have been disenfranchised for however long because of the policy of a particular government in a particular time who wanted to go a particular route, but we know how government and political parties and so work out, right? And then there's us. Because at the end of the day, it's us financing this. It's us taking care of us. So there are we.
Maybe generational as well.
It will be generational, of course. Any pension scheme. That's how it works.
So Chris, I heard you, and I also heard our colleague Duncan Richard on this also. And I think in the board report there was a discussion on it. And I think what I took away from there is that clearly it is a debt incurred. I mean, it's on the books already. You can say clearly. How we go forward, how do we create a cash flow to meet it in some stage environment? But they're pointing out that clearly there's like to be opportunities there, opportunity there for the country in terms of additional spending in the economy and investments. And so you look at it at both sides. So, but clearly it's an important issue going forward, and a task force being put together, as the Prime Minister alluded to last night. It's an excellent idea. This requires the best brains that we have in terms of how we figure this out.
You know something he said that I was impressed by? He said we have the talent. We have people in our society from all walks of life that they can pull on to do this. So now it's up to the people when they are called upon
Richard
to
made
step forward.
Critical point for me about the transformative aspect.
Yes.
It offers us in the sense that, you know, this pension issue has been a thing that is 100% financed by government. The question have to really be asked, can we afford to continue that?
Right. Will it become contributory?
Because, exactly. And that's part of the transformation that we need to understand. And yes, it's protected under the Constitution, but the way in which what is protected under the Constitution is that you're entitled to a pension. You know, how we finance it is going to be the key question, and gives us the opportunity to change and transform the whole environment with pensions nationally.
That's why I said last week, you know, our framers, God bless their soul, they probably had one thing in mind, but I'm not so certain that placing pension in the Constitution, you know, now that we're here in 2022 and this is happening, because law, and that's the thing with law, it has to be made to, you have to be able to live with it. It has to fit society, it has to fit what's going on, you know, how things change, how we evolve.
The Constitution is a living document, cast in stone, but in our case, it seems to be cast in stone.
Well, I tell you, try changing it now. Anyhow, let's get to
the politics yesterday.
Let's get to the...
Clearly, leadership was an issue on the table, on the floor yesterday. And the NNP side, you're hearing about leadership, the fact that the present Prime Minister is the chairman of the OECS presently, and some other chairmanship, and his experience and some of those issues going forward, statistician, and at the other side, you have a leader that is a successful corporate lawyer, largely inexperienced in politics, new. And so inexperience with some of the issues coming up in terms of leadership and what is most likely to create the confidence going forward. So there was a lot of talk about that leadership. But in terms of the individual candidate being launched yesterday, coming on scene, a lot of them were talking about what they saw in their community, what they saw was the requirement, was the feedback they were getting from their communities. So I think it's on.
The contest is on.
I didn't get to listen to everything, but I listened to local episodes, and I thought on the NNP side they had a launch of Kate Lewis and
Kate Lewis Peters and
two of the people in the St. Andrews area, and of course NDC on their side launched their four caretakers for their constituency. Dr. Sincere, I think. You had Lennox Andrew and
David Andrew
and
Gloria Thomas.
Right. So I think, as you say, it's on. I hear the issues that's coming up, experience versus inexperience. And I think for us and I want to speak from a business community, I'm just going to talk from a business point of view. We in the business community look always for stability. We look at predictability. And we look at management. And those are the things for us from a political standpoint and the effects on our business and what happens. That is important.
You're looking after your interests.
That's right. So we charge with that. So who we believe has done a good management of the economy, who have done well, and may continue in the future based on recent past. How could we understand the predictability based on the changing environment in terms of fiscal measures and all of that, and how it could affect the business community? And these are the issues that will surround us as business people, and probably look to see where we cast our vote or not. And that is an important thing. And you look at both sides in that spectrum. Now, it is without doubt that the NNP party has an edge on NEC with regards to that, because they have been in power longer and they have done. But there is this aspect of change. Could the new kids on the block bring about the kind of change that you need to project us into the future?
Paradigm shift.
And paradigm shift. They're youthful, they're energetic, they have all that comes with that, Can they do it and manage appropriately? So these are real questions, and I would like to hopefully see them challenged on the various platforms to answer those questions and to put that in focus.
Are we going to have that though, Chris?
Well, I don't know if Brenda is going to support me here, but I have always said that we need to bring them on programs and have people.
I believed in that, because when I was in the last election cycle, I was at a former workplace, and I think I was one of the architects of the debates we had out at SGU, or attempted to have. Because it's very difficult. People start telling you things like, you hear so many things, it's so disappointing as to why people don't want to show up and get to the issues. Even those that show up create so much wrangling for you, because, so sometimes maybe, you just leave the people to stay on their platform and see what they want to see. And let just people, let it fall wherever, let the chips fall where they may. Because it could become very, very, but it is worthwhile. That's why people need to look. Because there's one thing when you're on the platform and you're speaking to the converted, more or less. Because, in the case of yesterday, somebody said to me, they split the crowd in Grenville. I said, no, that wasn't Wagiti Bingo. That was a political rally. There was no splitting of crowd. The party faithfuls showed up, but the party faithfuls were, right? That's what happened. There was no splitting or nothing. The party faithful, even if they came from wherever to go wherever, they showed up there. So that's what it was. It wasn't a splitting of anything. And there's also this thing as a marketer that we need to address. So newness in politics is an exciting thing. You want to get to know a person. Some people, you latch on to them almost immediately based on what they project and so on. But everybody don't have that instant kind of thing. So you have to, like anything, you have to be identifiable. People have to know who you are. So when folks start asking the question, well, who is Chris? Who is Byron? Who is Brenda? It's not political fodder. There may be people making political fodder with it, but it's not political fodder. It is something for you to take very seriously and to start putting yourselves in front of people, marketing yourself, getting the question answered. Who is Chris? Who is Byron? Who is Brenda? Because in Grenada, who Chris is, how Chris make me feel, who Chris' mother was, how much dress she sold for me, that matters.
Yeah.
You see? So we need to not take that question so trite.
That is.
There will be people. There are people out there that make political, oh, who is she? No. Don't take it that way.
That's critical.
And even if they mean that, don't take it that way. Who you are needs to be answered. It means that I don't know this person. That's what it means. So answer that.
And that is for the people
seriously
on the fence.
Answer that.
That
of
is
course,
for the people on the fence.
That is for the how much percentage on the fence.
Yeah.
Because it's a numbers game.
It is.
The party faithfuls are who they are.
Yeah.
So you say you're going to win wherever. Okay, how much time? What was the length the last time? So let's say it was 2,500 votes. How are you closing that gap?
Yeah,
so how you're closing that gap and how you're adding.
The host is supposed to deal with that issue.
But of course. But of course.
I was talking to one of the candidates, caretakers, and he said to me, Chris, I lose 30 pounds already.
Yes.
Just walking in his constituency, meeting people. It's hard work, eh?
But you could see it. You could see it. I mean, I looked at Dickon Mitchell yesterday and I'm like, oh, where Dickon, like a cuteness gone? Because they can have this plump, face.
But I want to say one thing, Byron.
It's like,
what do you
it's hard
think
work.
about the gender mix on both sides?
Interesting. In St. Andrews, you had, for example,
NNP have
four females, and NNP has a male-female 50-50 ratio. So I think it's good. I think it's interesting. And also from the two candidates yesterday, you could say one was, in terms of the age levels, also they were averages and fair. I thought, but Chris. The point you made about the perspective of the private sector, how it looks at it at an election and what its concerns are going forward. I think the same point can be made. How does a young person look at the election in terms of looking at the opportunities? Which party gives me the greatest confidence of a future, of stability, or the elderly, or the looking at same question, stability, my pension, stability, cost of living, who's better able to manage matters, the affairs of government for me. So I think confidence would be a big issue regardless of where you are in a society, in your determination of who to support.
One of the things yesterday that was interesting.
When you go in the boot, it's a personal vote. Eh?
Oh, yes.
Personal vote,
yes.
It's a personal thing. It's how you
Something
think
that's hit you
it's going
inside
to
of
affect
them,
you personally now and in the future.
That's correct.
And you vote according to that.
All this rhetoric will have no effect.
When you're inside the boot.
Because what you think something does hit you, what up inside of it.
And you hesitate, you pause.
Yeah, you pause.
It's not automatic.
No, you do pause. You do pause.
And then you realize how serious this exercise is.
And then you start looking at the people before you. You do. I told you all my last two experiences. Serious.
Where was I? How have they done?
Yeah.
It
came down to how I felt.
Because the leap of faith here is going to the brand new, young, vibrant, and so on, and what that brings.
Or even voting the incumbent for the first time. Even that.
So it comes back to the individual and how they have been, for want of a better word, socialized over the season.
But you mentioned the Prime Minister and his PhD in mathematics and statistics and so on. And I mean, all jokes aside, that is where the man comes from with everything he does. Even if he makes jokes and whatever, but that is where he comes from. And I did hear him last night when he said that he got really good news today, meaning yesterday, that Grenada is ready for the NNP again. So to me, that was answering a question. That was kind of telling us without telling us that I have completed my polling at this level. and my polling is
Brenda,
favorable.
and it's not about being partisan. It's about
we have to be realistic about
looking
these
at
things.
the two leaders. I mean, and I think the change. In fact, change is only permanent, only constant. You know, so it's welcome and it's fine. And we're looking at two leaders, same name, of course, surname, but of different styles, of different backgrounds, different. And we're saying that the Prime Minister is a statistician of the highest caliber, having worked internationally and all that. He's probably is maybe the most experienced politician in the region. That's right. And as he mentioned, that even within the OECS and other institutions regionally and internationally, they look to him for direction and leadership. And that's a fact, you know, regardless of what the criticisms may be. The other case, we have a successful corporate lawyer that is young, that is green, that is inexperienced in politics.
Be careful how you use the word green.
Well, green,
and very enthusiastic.
Very enthusiastic.
Very
And I'm saying,
I
see.
You don't want to green Mr. Mitchell now, whether by age or whether by color.
I see. Well, green in terms of experience in politics, to be explicit here, you know. And as someone said, you have to start somewhere and sometime. My only issue has been is like, regardless of where I'm not a politician, but I've always spoken out on issues of the economics, of poverty, of agriculture, of climate, and all issues. I've not heard the leader of the NDC on any of those issues. You know, and I'm saying I'm anxious to hear those issues, you know, and how they are.
Do you think they're putting out of the, what do you call the thing? The
manifesto? It has to be more than that.
They're coming a week before the election.
Some intellectual sits down and write this thing.
You agree with me that we need to have them before the public in some form of discussion. I don't want to use the word debate. That seems to throw everybody off. So let's say discussion. You know,
let's call it a national conversation.
And probably not with opposing people there, but them alone.
Yes, them alone.
2 or 3 people from the party and put real issues at them on the economics and the fiscal.
I have some questions. I'm working on questions as we speak.
I think it's something that we need to
push. Because I need to know you.
Yes, as Brenda said.
I need to give you an opportunity also to explain and to articulate your positions.
You have to put yourself out there. Even if you're in a party and the party have a structure, and parties should not restrain their candidates. You know, you want to make them, you operate within a framework, but people need to put themselves out there, especially.
I know you are not at time,
especially.
But what happened
I want to ask about the FUPA yesterday.
The faux pas? Oh gosh.
I can't even know the FUPA.
The faux pas on the stage.
What happened? I missed that part.
Brenda, I leave it up to you to explain the FUPA.
Oh gosh, listen. You know my heart. I know. But you see, as a person who hosts and MCs things, you know, you understand the pressure of slipping up and so on. So I do empathize with the young man last night who was MCing for the NDC at the time. There was one slip where he mistakenly was like about to say like NNP for NDC, but he corrected himself. That happens because that has happened on NNP side too. That happens because they both start with N, so it's easy to say NNP or NDC when you're on either of them. But in the business of hosting, what may have been, and I just say it lightly, a cardinal sin there, was when you are looking into the face of the political leader of the organization who has, the owners of this event, who has hired you to do this. So when you are looking into the face of the political leader of the organization and not recognizing that he is Dickon Mitchell and not Mr. Cox, to me, that was a bummer.
Well, could I say Mr. Cox was probably in their mind? I don't know what Mr. Cox said on the other side. I mean, I didn't pay attention.
But the big issue, Brenda, is but how do you avoid it? And it has to do with preparation.
I just say it's a light moment. The young man made a mistake, we move on and we go past
we all
that.
forget
It's one of those things.
But you know, it's a teachable moment. And I know a lot of people like to hold mics in Grenada. But when you hold a mic, You have to be prepared for what's coming out of your mouth. You have to understand where you are and who you're working for and representing. And, Deacon Mitchell, Deacon stood there with a broad smile on his face. He didn't react to it anyway. You couldn't tell, and he probably felt, oh gosh, But it's just, and of course a lot of fodder is going to be made because it's lively and it's fun and it's all of that. But I always say to people say, oh, they think doing this is so easy. You have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. People go on air and get on with all sorts of craziness. Listen, whenever you're going to pick up a mic to do anything, you have to be prepared. If I was going there, no, you cannot.
I suppose
it's
it did.
not about you.
It's
never about you when you're holding that mic. It's about the people you're working for. It's never about you. And that's the thing. People seem to think that they are artist number 5 when they pick up the mic to work for people. No, it's never about you.
Final question for Chris. Chris, is your timing for the elections changed or reviewed?
No, they said
because after Carnival,
I got that.
You have budget coming up, and preparation for budget. We don't call elections in those times.
So you're keeping it where you are.
We don't call elections during those times.
No,
who is we?
We the people.
I tell you, you're talking. You and the doc talking secretly.
So you're keeping it by June.
Yeah.
I feel all you're talking to the doc.
Okay. Man say you have it on the tune.
Him last night. He said, I hear a bell, but it's not a bell. He said,
I'm not comfortable with this, that one person, Chris, can determine an important event like this. I think it should be a constitutional issue. It should not. It's wrong. It's not fair.
Mr. Campbell,
it's not
time to go. So all you like it.
So we like
all your day.
So we did.
All you just stop as a thing, put it in front of all you.
All you right.
Dash it away.
Close the show, let me leave.
Let me go in here. Listen, this has been Perspectives. We gone. We out of here. Listen, it's Holy Week. Let's try our best to love one another as best as we can, as supportive as we can. The politics, everybody don't like apples, everybody don't like oranges. People support who they support. Let's just rise and remember that we're all Grenadians, and let's do this. All right? Have a great Monday, everybody. Have a great week. Have fun. And to that young man on the NDC stage last night, I feel it for you.
We're not on next week.
I feel it for you. No, we're not here. We're not here.
We're not here.
We're not here next week. It's Easter Monday. We're going on the beach. We're going to harvest. We're going everywhere. All right? And we're giving the politics a break for the Easter weekend too. Don't book nothing. We ain't coming. And we have cricket too, right? Remember that exciting tourney that's put on by the GCA. Congratulations to Dwayne Gill and his team at GCA. Great going, guys. Have a great week, everyone. Senator Diali, thank you. Mr. Campbell, thank you. All right, I'm Brenda Batiste. We see you when we see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.